All right, welcome back to Black Bear News. Please remember to like the video and to make sure that you are still subscribed. How are you doing? How are you doing? Kind of late on a Sunday night, but this is the only time that I had today to do this. Let me adjust. Yeah, greetings. Welcome in. Well, the good thing about coming in late is that I didn't miss the news that Buttigieg dropped out of the presidential race today. And that actually makes me very happy. Although there's already people talking about the nefariousness of the move. Maru, how you doing? Uh, I was thinking actually about you today that I hadn't seen you comment in a while. So welcome, William. What's up? Ringtailed Fox. What's up? Ringtail Fox. So it's funny. So Ringtailed Fox says after a cripplingly windy yet dry winter with highs in the low 20s, I'm not sure where you are, Ringtail. I'm now about to see at least 2 weeks of highs in the upper 40s and low 50s. It's spring. I am buffering. Sorry. Come on back. Come on back. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why this is doing this. Well, I do know why, because the door is closed to my situation. Maybe I'll just open the door and do it in the. All right, so maybe we'll just get a little better signal now. All right, sorry about that. I wasn't set up to do this indoors in the outside indoors. Does that make any sense? Inside outdoors, on the inside outdoors. Yes. All right. So let's not have any like weird. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. Buttigieg dropped out. Ringtail Fox here in the Windsor area. Yes, Windsor, Detroit. Well, so what I was going to say, the reason why I have the door closed is because it was really warm last week. It was hit 90 degrees, I think, on Friday. And now we've suddenly got this like total turn of weather. It rained all day, and it's quite chilly. It's supposed to be in the low 40s, high 30s tonight. Low 40s. So it's pretty chilly for right now, just for one day. We're getting a one-day chill. That's why I'm out here wearing like all the clothes. But yes, so Buttigieg dropped out, of course. South Carolina primary, Biden just absolutely skunked everybody, but it looks like that's going to be an incredibly huge outlier. That may be one of two states that he wins in this entire race. We'll see. Because Bernie Sanders looks really good on Super Tuesday, which is this Tuesday. So I'm in California. If you're in California, or you know anybody in California, make sure that they are voting. Make sure they get out and vote. Make sure they vote for Bernie. It's going to be a pretty edge of your seat kind of day, because if Bernie does really, really well, that means that his path to victory is pretty clear, and it makes other people staying in the race pretty negligible, and it doesn't really give people much of a reason to stay around. I don't know why Warren is still in the race. There's not, after Super Tuesday, there probably won't be much of a reason for her to be in the race. Although she has a super PAC behind her, and it looks like they're going to fund her to continue to keep kneecapping Bernie Sanders. The dude, how are you? So that kind of looks like what's happening. So already I've seen the prognostications about Buttigieg dropping out. The fact that they dropped out was to consolidate the moderates behind Biden, and then Warren stays in to kneecap Bernie on the progressive side. If you're following that logic, I don't know. I think that they're all there to kneecap Bernie in one way or another. So the less goofy wannabe trying to get in the way of Bernie Sanders presidential candidates, the better. Anyway, so it looks like this is going to be a coronavirus heavy broadcast. Somebody left a comment yesterday about airlines facing some financial difficulties because of the coronavirus. Of course, that makes total sense. Because, with all the flight cancellations, obviously that's going to hit a lot of airlines pretty hard. Depending on how long this goes, this could really actually force some airlines out of business, or at least into restructuring. So I'm going to just quickly touch on this. Coronavirus is threatening to end the world air travel boom, and we could actually go, hooray. Although, again, that means different things for different people. If you're aware of the global dimming phenomenon, then that could be a yay and followed by a, oh boy, what's going to happen? Airlines have cut hundreds of thousands of flights because of coronavirus travel restrictions. Carriers are also waiving change and cancellation fees for routes because of the illness. U.S. domestic demand has been a strong revenue driver and will now be put to the test. The rapid spread of the new coronavirus is testing airlines and other travel companies with a risk that had been nearly unthinkable over the past decade, a broad decline in travel demand. This is, or otherwise known as degrowth. And also, on top of the airlines facing this forced degrowth, the fossil fuel companies are facing a forced degrowth or a lessening of demand for their product. And what will that do to their financial situations? Nobody knows. The issue caps a difficult year for airlines that have been grappling with a nearly year-long grounding of Boeing 737 MAX. Carriers need demand to stay robust. Analysts are warning that looks unlikely. I mean, it's hard not to cheer on these just rampant environment destructors. It's hard not to cheer them on when they fall apart or when they face difficulty or a collapse. The New York Stock Exchange ARCA Airline Index, which tracks 16 carriers in North America and Latin America, as well as European budget carrier Ryanair, is down 20% this week, putting it on pace for its biggest weekly percentage since October 2008. We are hearing that date again. So we had a drop. We've had drops in industrial output and the drop in industrial output from China is down actually lower than, and I wish I had that graph up, lower than even 2008. Stock prices fell again to their lowest points or at the lowest rates since 2008. All of that, you can make of that what you will, but all of that means not so good things. American Airlines shares fell 7.7%. United Airlines, which suspended its full-year guidance this week because of the virus, lost 2.4% to close at a two-year low. Delta fell 2.8%. 81,000 people have been sickened with coronavirus, and new cases are rising outside of China, where most of the cases have been reported. Air travel demand this year will fall for the first time in over a decade and cost airlines more than $29 billion in revenue. Oh, poor airlines. So yeah, just, it's a bloodbath. It's an absolute bloodbath for the airlines. Travel has been totally restricted to Iran. There was a restriction in place, and it looked like, there were advisories in place for certain areas, but Iran has completely been cut off. So there's no air travel to Iran, in or out from the U.S. And then somebody sent me this. I'm sorry, guys. I kind of am sent so many links and articles that it's every single day that it's like hard to keep track of where everything comes from. Somebody sent me something that was very interesting. Coronavirus NASA images show China pollution clear amid slowdown. They are comparing. I'm sorry, I can't show you the graph because I don't have the technology to do that. But there's a picture, not a graph, but a picture of, or an image, if you will, of like a satellite image of pollution over China, comparing comparing the first month of 2020 to February 2020, January 2020 to February. It is a completely different world. There's like so much pollution going on in China, all over the place, especially the northeast near Beijing, Shanghai, etc. All of that entire area is covered in pollution, and now it is completely clear, which is, great for breathing, great for people's health, probably bad for global dimming. They also have another comparison between 2019 and 2020, and it's completely cleared up. It's like brown, nasty yellow clouds of smog compared to a clear, bright day. Completely cleared up. So that shows you how, that right there, I will link it below. That shows you how much industrial activity has decreased in China, which could be a great thing or a terrible thing, depending on which side of the coin you choose to look at. So this is funny because I was talking yesterday about Bristol airport expansion being halted. I didn't know when I started the video that that Heathrow had also halted its planned expansion that Extinction Rebellion was protesting against. And Proudhon, said Heathrow was blocked. The Heathrow expansion was blocked in the comments yesterday. He didn't know that the Bristol airport had also. So this is relatively recent. This is from February 27th. Plans to build a third runway at the UK airport Heathrow may not go ahead after a court ruled it illegal. The Court of Appeal said the expansion was unlawful because it did not take the UK's climate commitments into account. Okay. The judges said that in the future, a third runway could go ahead as long as it fits with the UK's climate policy. Well, if the UK has declared a climate emergency, how could it ever, on what grounds could it ever go ahead or fit into the UK's climate policy if the climate policy is that there is an emergency? The decision was a victory for environmental groups, councils, and the mayor of London that had brought the challenge to court. Heathrow Airport said it would oppose the decision. Of course they will, but the government is not going to appeal. Supporters of the runway said it would boost the whole UK economy because business would be able to deliver more goods. And it's all about business being able to deliver more goods because growth, unless there's a forced degrowth. Then what do? The Court of Appeal said the government had failed to follow the Paris Climate Agreement to limit global warming. The judges said it was legally fatal to the government's Heathrow expansion policy that it did not take those climate commitments into account. Wow. I'm going to read that sentence again. The judges said it was legally fatal to the government's Heathrow expansion policy that it did not take those climate commitments into account. Wow. Fair. That's pretty progressive stuff there. Who knows what it means for the future? Are they going to just continue anyways? But you know what? The name Extinction Rebellion was not uttered once in this article, and I'm sure that pressure from Extinction Rebellion was extremely pivotal in this decision. I'm sure that it was, right? Because nobody was challenging it before. And not only that, the City of London or the country of Britain or UK did not declare a climate emergency before Extinction Rebellion pretty much forced them to, or forced their hand. So, like them or not, they are causing policies to change. They are forcing change upon governments and policymakers, whether they like it or not. Enforcing change, therefore, ergo, in extension on businesses. I'm going to catch up on some comments, guys. Scott Andrews says stock market will get crushed tomorrow. That is going to be an interesting couple of days because, yes, we've had an entire week of stock market crash and slash and burn, and then tomorrow the market's open. What's going to happen Tuesday is Super Tuesday, and it looks like Bernie Sanders is going to do well. What does that do to the markets also? Who knows? It will have an effect. Scott Andrews, the sky has been blue lately. Where are you at, Scott Andrews? So we have more confirmed cases in the U.S. D Ranch says Florida 2 cases, New York 1 confirmed. Ringtailed Fox, CP Rail just announced layoffs at their Windsor and London yards for the next 2 months since the trains can't get goods from Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal. Wow. Third coronavirus patient in London, Ontario. Now I'm worried. London's not too far. Yeah, London is not far from you. Echoes of not curious to see if temps will rise shortly. Interesting story I heard secondhand the other day from another person on the East Coast. Said that there really wasn't a winter on the East Coast yet. There's been very, very little snow. It's been fairly warm. Also confirmed by CB Unglesby. How you doing, CB? Who's in West Virginia, who's been reporting on quite warm temperatures in West Virginia. A very, very mild winter with spring-like temperatures in February. Which can't be good. Can't be good for the plants and the animals. And eventually, the humans. Scott Andrews, Missouri. Okay. Anna Pike says, with the reductions in air travel and industry, the coronavirus may prove to be good for the planet. Less so far for us. Say the least, containment of SARS-CoV-2 was lost a couple months ago. I mean, it looks definitely like it's got legs. It's going, I don't know if you want to use the word exponential, but it's definitely spreading very quickly. I don't know if you can use the word exponential, but, I'm sure lots of people have already. CB Unglesby in West Virginia says warm tonight. Interesting. Echoes of Not in Philly says we got less than an inch all winter. Right. The person that I heard from was in Maryland, DC area. Very little snow. So that is lining up with the fact that in Scandinavian countries have seen no snow, little to no snow no winter, warm temperatures. This seems to be a trend. This seems to be something that's happening in many places, which coincides with warmer temperatures and with a warmer Arctic, and weather just not being what it should be or being the same, and the knock-on effects of all that warm winter weather and little snow, I'm sure, is going to carry on into the summer, spring and summer. Larry Taylor, very little snow in Indiana, less every year, yes. What's crazy is actually California has gotten a ton of snow, but it's not going to stay for long. It's going to melt. As soon as the temperature goes up, we're going to get a very quick melting season, and then that's going to be that. Rich Diana says Moscow is going winterless. Yeah, lots of places. The East Coast of the U.S., or at least the, Philly, New York, and to the south. Very warm winter. Scandinavia, Russia, UK getting hit by crazy storms. Anna Pike says the coronavirus spreads asymptomatically and can lay in wait for up to nearly a month, possibly more. Expect a sharp rise in U.S. cases. Agreed. Almost certainly going to go exponential, in my opinion. I mean, plan for the worst. I think at this point that would be wise. I mean, I actually have already started the process of, getting some supplies just in case. I have a little bit of water put away, but laying up some extra supplies soon, or in the next few days, just in case. Phil Moore says, I've been hearing for about a year now that all it's going to take is a black swan event. Isn't the coronavirus a black swan event? Well, it's looking very much like it could be that very thing. It's taking down the airlines. It's taking down the stock market. It's taking down industrial output and carbon emissions, which actually could translate into a spike in heating, which would further exacerbate, weather extremes, temperature extremes, extremes, storm activity, wildfire activity eventually. This could be all bad, and it could be totally set off by the coronavirus. Okay, so check this out. I was watching The Hill the other day, and somebody from the Trump administration was on, somebody who was dealing with the coronavirus said that Trump is a wartime president now. Do you want to know the reason why he spoke those words out loud? So that he could create the idea that we're at war with the coronavirus, and if this is a war, or we're in a wartime situation, or an emergency situation, what kind of, that gives what? The Trump administration the power to what? Declare like a national emergency, we heard about this all through Obama's tenure. But I haven't really heard it spoken too much around Trump, but declare some kind of like martial law, declare some kind of like postponement of the elections, et cetera, et cetera. Are you following my logic? But I just realized this guy was on there saying, he was very distinctly saying, well, we think that Trump is a wartime president. We're going to say that he's a wartime president now, even though we're not at war. But they're creating this, this narrative that the coronavirus, demands a wartime-like response. And if we have that kind of, manufactured idea, narrative, we have to have these things in place or have this wartime response in place. Who knows? Who knows? It could be a reason for, Trump to start like canceling uh, canceling events, like elections. I don't know. Who knows? I'm just putting that out there. Phil Moore said, I remember when you interviewed Kevin Hester, and he said something to the effect of, when it goes, you will not be able to keep up with it. I don't think anybody will. I think it'll be very difficult for lots of people to keep up with. Larry Taylor says, I bought 2 grocery carts for that food the other day. Good idea. Poppy Davis going to the store tomorrow. San Antonio is going to get spooked. Good idea. Go soon and don't tell anybody your plans if you can. Even though I just told everyone my plans. So the cat's out of the bag, guys. The dude said, Orange Man saying in press conference yesterday that he's bringing 10,000 troops home from Afghanistan effective immediately to do what, I wonder? Well, so they have something of a peace accord happening with Afghanistan, which is not really being covered very well by the mainstream news. And not by me either, because I knew this was happening like 2 weeks ago. They are working on a peace agreement with Afghanistan, and they're basically trying to officially say that the war with Afghanistan is over. They're going to leave some troops there, of course. We always do that. But they're basically going to have some kind of like agreement with the Taliban that we will pull out troops. And that's already in the works. That's already pretty much a done deal. So I don't know if the 10,000 troops are coming home because of that, or because of this, or if it's just all, coincidental. Gene says, in China, all medical care expenses from the virus are covered by the government. People in the U.S. are not going to be taken care of. Great point. It would be really helpful if we had Medicare for all already right now. That's not going to help us this year because it's going to take like 2 or 3 years to actually get all of that in place. But you're right. It costs like $3,000 to get tested for coronavirus in the U.S., which is absolutely insane that they're actually charging people for this. Why? This is an emergency. This is could be seen as a national emergency. We've already, Trump has already spoken to the nation about it. It's already, we know it's a big deal, and yet they're going to force people who go to the hospital and say, I want to be tested. They're going to charge them $3,000. What the fuck is that? That doesn't make any sense. They should just be giving this away. They should just immediately say right now, all testing for coronavirus free. Come on in, get tested if you need to get tested. Like that should just be, immediate. I don't know why that isn't happening. If it is happening, can somebody, inform me, correct me? I don't know. Reverend Walker says Section 21 of the Patriot Act. Chris Hedges has been saying it for years. Military police on the streets rounding up infected, like in China at the moment. Well, the Patriot Act actually just got renewed with the help of Nancy Pelosi and all the Democrats. So resistance my ass. But yeah, the NDAA and the Patriot Act are still in effect, still renewed. Yeah. All that stuff is still in place. The dude says BBN, yes, and I'm suggesting from under my tinfoil hat that it is rather coincidental. Well, I mean, it makes sense on a lot of levels. The dude says Washington set up our own lab to do our own testing. Glad our state government gets it. Yeah, Washington would be a place that does get it. I don't know if California gets it yet, but hopefully they do. He does look worried. Trump is echoes of not says Trump during the last address to the nation, he looked very worried. Oh, of course he's damn worried because this is a threat. This threatens to like wipe his presidency out in the space of a couple months. I mean, he won't have anything. If the stock market crashes and coronavirus gets out of hand and he can't deal with it effectively, I mean, it's over. It's done. Ava Maria 21 says, I'm predicting that the U.S. will have hundreds of thousands of deaths from the virus. That would be pretty shocking. Yeah, Cali should be, the left coast is generally more progressive and more on top of stuff like that. Generally. Yeah. So anyways, guys, I'm going to finish up this video with, I'm going to read George Sacroclides' latest article, latest entry titled Coronavirus is Earth's Message. And just, I want to give George a shout out. He actually published his book, which I think is just titled Disposable Earth. And apparently it is doing quite well on Amazon. I think it went to #1. Or is #1 in the weather section of Amazon. So you guys can find, if you're interested in buying his book, it's on Amazon. And I'm going to read this article published on February 29th. Coronavirus is Earth's message. Are we willing to listen? Animals at the edge of extinction may not have Twitter accounts to tell humans of their plight. Acidified coral reefs may not have handsomely paid marketing gurus to craft impactful press releases about the ecological collapse that is silently taking place just a few meters under the water's surface. Koalas may not have strong lobbying representatives in Congress to demand a halt in Australia's right-wing CO2-emitting criminal regime. And bright white Antarctic glaciers have neither the speed or the color palette needed in their language to describe the scale of the catastrophe happening in the polar regions. But somehow, miraculously, benevolent Earth has used its infinite wisdom once again to find a way to send humans a message in a language that they can understand. A virus that is more than just a virus. It is a messenger that brings with it a warning, as well as some well-placed advice. Whether it is the last message or a series of many similar messages, we don't know. We've had enough warnings so far. Earth's messengers. I'm a molecular biologist and have used virus-derived vectors many times in my research to transfer DNA between species. Although we view viruses negatively, they are part of Earth's ecosystem. They have as much of a right to be on this planet as we do. In fact, the more we learn about viruses, the more we can begin to appreciate their role on Earth. It is increasingly believed that viruses, through their ability to integrate pieces of their DNA into our own DNA, may have played a significant role in evolution. There is concrete evidence of multiple examples of horizontal gene transfer, i.e., the transfer of genetic material between species that would normally not be able to mate, including species as different as plants and animals. The bizarre phenomenon of a plant and animal having almost identical genes for certain proteins can only be explained through viruses and other genetic vectors. While for years, science has argued and debated whether viruses are actual living things, what is certain is that life as we know it would not exist without viruses. Viruses may be dangerous, but they are also Earth's USB sticks, able to transfer information from one computer to another, often from one operating system to another, while having no hard drive themselves to actually run the software that they carry. They are able to share the software across species, resulting in evolutionary jumps that dwarf the most impressive Darwinian single-point mutation-led evolution by any measure. A test drive for humanity 2.0. Coronavirus is here to tell us one thing, that we can live with fewer emissions. The stock market crashes, but the world keeps going. Earth is letting us test drive what a solution to the climate change problem looks like. Earth is the parent that is holding the bicycle while we, the child, is learning to cycle. Even after all our mistakes, Earth has sent us this virus as a gift. Rather than leave us to collapse and extinction, it is putting us in quarantine, in curfew, so that we can learn our lesson. It is the parent disciplining the careless teenager. No CO2 emissions for 2 months until you learn to spend your carbon budget on more useful things like textbooks and food instead of apps and weed. In fact, coronavirus is likely to have been a direct result of climate change. As species around the globe become climate refugees, they begin to come in contact with each other in ways they didn't before. Our ecosystems are in motion because of these changes brought about by climate change, which means that viruses are also in motion. The rise in global temperature also affects the proliferation of other viruses and microorganisms in ways that we cannot predict. Earth may be sending us more messages in the near future, even though we have reached the stage where we don't deserve any more warnings. Can we start to listen to the ones served so far? To be continued. Hope you all enjoyed that. Poppy Davis says, Lord Dumbass has a good episode on horizontal evolution. Larry Taylor said, yeah, Pompeo couldn't admit virus was a hoax. Hunter Z says 28 million have no health insurance and won't go get anything checked out. I'm one of those people. I actually have health insurance, but I don't have the time or the copay to go use it. But maybe I should. 40% of citizens are one paycheck away from poverty. That is also me. A perfect storm. Watch the dominoes fall. Larry Taylor says Kirkland, Washington shelves are empty. I've seen video. Yeah, some places are already kind of on top of the whole let's go raid the grocery store situation. Other places, not so much. LA, not yet. It's a great article. Definitely very good. Very well done. And it's an interesting take on that this may be, a test run for living with less CO2 emissions and or air travel and or less consumption. I don't know. Excuse me. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining in with me. I have to wrap this up. Anna Pike says coronavirus equals the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine-ish. And Zox plans to eat the rich. Bon appetit. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Peace be unto you. I will talk to you tomorrow.